getting into it, what you're viewing right now, and there could be an opportunity to ultimately create a more white label branded space for you all where, coloring and, the actual visual of logos, everything will kind of be you all. And I'm logged into a demo account. The campaign we'll run through is actually a campaign that we activated underneath this account called the Frozen Bean program. And what you'll see is if we get to the point where it's important to have separate workspaces for the brands that you're launching, I know that we have kind of a specific need right now. We can kind of add additional workspaces so that you can manage them separately from everything from creators that you're contracting with within brands to agreements that they're signing, kind of having some level of customization for a specific brand if needed, being able to add like supplemental contracts or anything like that. But for the purpose of this, really what you'll see on the left-hand side is when you log in, you'll be able to access everything at a glance. So your homepage of all of your active campaigns, active outreaches, recent Instagram posts, TikTok posts, creators you've worked with. So think of this as like kind of all of your campaigns that you've been running, just giving you a central dashboard to be able to see that and then go into a specific campaign to manage that execution on a campaign by campaign basis. What you'll see on the left-hand side is these are really kind of more of your global navigation, because once we go into a particular campaign, you will then see that you have access to all of these kind of global reports from performance, content, access to be able to chat with creators in more of a global inbox type of experience. But when you're in a specific campaign, you'll see that the navigation for that campaign is found on the top here. When you are launching a campaign, you're going to be asked to initially fill out this campaign basics page. Here, you're going to provide just like high level information. I think it's like 5 to 7 pieces of information. You can create your campaign with AI, so it's going to prompt you to provide a URL that once you ultimately click that, it'll take about 45 seconds or so. Basically, what it's going to do is going to kind of paint the picture for you. Instead of starting from a blank canvas, you'll have really the system is just pulling information directly from the web based off of like goals, based off of product type, whatever it might be that we are ultimately going to be promoting around. It will create kind of a campaign brief for you to then be able to tweak, edit, depending on, whatever customizations you want to make to that particular application or campaign brief. The things that go into your campaign brief are all of the things that creators need to know in order to say, yes, I want to apply to a campaign, or no, I don't. That's where, again, your basics page, once you fill out this information, it'll dump you into your messaging. So, what we want to convey is who we are to creators, brand logo, any kind of aesthetic imagery, visuals, brochures, PDFs, whatever you might want to provide to creators to get a better feel for who you are. There's the collaboration section. So this is where you will set those configurations of getting content pre-approval. So if you're working with, we'll find, and I'm sure you know this better than anyone, adding this extra layer of quality control is important for a lot of enterprise brands, but we even work with enterprise brands that understand that like this friction point requiring creators to upload their content and provide, and you giving back and forth feedback sometimes is a deterrent for creators, and it will ultimately be kind of reflected in the price of working with the creator. But here is where you can enable content pre-approval, set all of these negotiable requirements. So you can say whether you want the influencer to be able to negotiate exclusivity periods, e-com usage, paid usage, content, allow listing, any of this information, or you can actually lock it and say, hey, influencer, none of this stuff is negotiable. These are our terms, take it or leave it. So depending on what you want to do there for these particular terms, you can leave it up for negotiation or not. These are, hashtags that they have to use, type of content we want them to create. That's pretty straightforward. Then there's the content guidelines section where you articulate. You can also give visual understandings of what success looks like in terms of giving representation of previous creators you've worked with or anything that looks good to you. This is where you'll provide like a little bit more of a written description along with a visual understanding. And you can also have custom questions that you are requiring the influencer when they're applying to fill out to kind of have an additional data point. I actually just spoke to somebody that was like, we only can ship product to people in the States, in the US. So she wanted to add a custom question that was like, do you have a residency or wherever that you can ship product to? Yes or no, that kind of thing, so that she can kind of at least filter those applicants out if they actually can't get the product shipped to them. We'll come back to the demographic section. Payment section, this is where you set the criteria of how you're going to be compensating and incentivizing influencers. You can pay them, give them free product or service, or offer some sort of commission tracking, conversion tracking capability into it. A lot of people will come to us and have an existing affiliate program where it's easy to say, hey, we're on this program, that or the other, paste the URL that you want to send creators to in order to kind of get their URL or coupon code directly from the affiliate system. So it's pretty straightforward for, you know, guiding the creator down whatever path you want in order to get them to create or get the code or URL generated. So that's that piece. Last piece before we go into like you publish the campaign. I know that this is a lot. I wanted to get into like the depth of it because I know that you probably have some pretty important like things that you need to customize for your specific use case. But this demographic section is what really configures the sourcing and recruitment of when you kick off, publish a campaign, we're going and finding creators that fit follower ranges of interest, engagement rate thresholds, gender, race, age ranges, down to specific demographics. I remember we talked about, or locations. Remember we talked about on the last one, could go down to, you know, city level targeting. Of course, the smaller the population, the harder it is to identify and the less of a pool that you have to work with. But, you know, we've worked with groups that are targeting getting creators into a restaurant in Asheville, North Carolina. So from a hyper local perspective, you just kind of have to make sure that your expectations are aligned with what the ask is and all that good stuff. But here's where you provide handles of influencers that you want our system to actually recruit and then use these as targeted lookalike profiles to go and find similar types of creators to them, people you don't want us to reach out to. And then think of this as almost like a ChatGPT-esque search where you're giving us keywords, hashtags, terms to go and say, hey, this influencers are using these words in their biographies, captions, you know, crawling through recent posts and you know, highest performing posts directly on social platforms. So that's kind of the configuration of a campaign. If you want to launch another campaign in place or, you know, an additional campaign. Yep.
Austin, in regards to the followers and kind of the different filters you can put for the influencers, is
Yep.
this based on one platform or is this their follower range across any of their handles across any platform?
Good question. So in the collaboration section, you're actually going to establish which platforms you want to be recruiting creators from. Excitingly, we actually have, I just found out YouTube will be in the platform as well by the end of October, I think. So very, very soon we'll have Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. I will say that's almost more for our internal purposes because we run a lot of programs ourselves and a lot of our customers are kind of leveraging YouTube source to a certain capacity, but most of our partners, I would say 95% of people are just looking to run programs off of Instagram and TikTok. But this is where you'll establish what systems we're actually sourcing from. And then to your point, our system will know which social platforms to go and target directly using this criteria to source.
Got it. So if we want to source from both Instagram and TikTok, are we able to select the number of followers we want per each platform?
So it wouldn't be, you can run separate campaigns to keep them separate. This
Okay.
would just be here. You would establish, hey, I want Instagram and TikTok. You would set the demographic of being like, hey, I want 5,000 to 50,000 across both. So there's actually no way to say, I want this on that one and I want this on that one. What you can do, and we've seen a lot of people do this, is actually run a TikTok campaign and an Instagram campaign, because the ask, the type of creator, everything could be different from like how we want to collaborate, who we want to target on each social platform. And when you go to create a new campaign, you can kind of start with one handle or one platform being Instagram. You can come in and you can actually clone that campaign and then just update the, whatever information you want for the TikTok campaign as well. We have a lot of people that run, them in a little bit more of a unique siloed way, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
Um, cool. Well, yeah, once you go through, you kind of publish the campaign. That's what activates our sourcing and recruitment technology. Um, we'll kind of come back to this page in a second, but if you now put yourself in the shoes of an influencer, they're essentially just receiving an email, different means of communication as well for creators that we've already worked with in the past that we've identified as like really good targets for the campaign that you just launched. But they're essentially going to be directed to this brief that you've reviewed here and published. Um, this is where you'll give the creator, a professional, concise, very clean digital version of, the brief part of it, including everything. They can say, no, I don't want to complete, and then they'll give us some valuable information, which will actually be shown on your dashboard to help maybe automate and adjust the way that we are compensating creators to maybe align with some of the feedback that we've gotten. But the influencer will then say, yes, I want to participate. This is where they fill out all of their information, dynamically built out based off of the campaign, the structure, and the things that we need answers for. But, if we're asking questions, they can they'll answer the questions here. For giving them, various products to be able to select from, they'll select their product, and then they sign, date, submit their interest. And that's what then turns this process for you all into a kind of like a selection queue, I would say, where you can filter on, a lot of these variables like newest submission, oldest, highest rate, lowest rate, follower count, all of that good stuff. You can also filter on what we have as short listing feature, where you and your team, we understand how it can be collaborative. You can come in, leave notes for one another, add them to the short list, which will tag them as, hey, I want to work with this creator, or at least giving it some sort of categorization. And then you can also use this voting link, which is more of a public display of these influencers who have applied. So if you want to like send it out to anybody in the company or their company and say, hey, we would love your feedback on these creators, it will essentially take them to a page that looks like this. And then you will be able to see everybody's voting results. And then, of course, you can kind of collaborate with your team internal of here, do whatever you want. Now, once you get to this point, this is when we're deciding whether we want to work with an influencer, don't want to, or want to negotiate. And it's as simple as like, you can also, I think an important piece is just being able to chat directly with creators before you ultimately decide if you want to develop a relationship with them. And learn more about them, jump on a call, do whatever you want. But the way our communications channel works is once the influencers are applied to a campaign, our system will actually respond to them whenever a chat or a message is sent across text, email, in the app itself. And no matter where the creator responds, it's going to show, let's see if I have a chat pulled up somewhere. Yeah, it'll show more of a timestamp you'll see here, or let's see, yeah, here, where it'll show who left off last, message to them, time-stamped, understanding kind of what was an automated message versus what wasn't, just so that there's kind of one line of communication with the creator, because juggling across platforms is often not always the best use of time. But here's where you will ultimately select who you want to work with, deny who you don't, and then easy click of the button negotiation, leave what your counter offer is, a personal note. They'll get a message saying, here you go. And then you could go back and forth and negotiate with them until you come to whatever terms are reasonable for both sides. Um,
Got it. Do you guys find that the influencer usually uses the chat within the platform, or do they end up having the client or the brand reach out to them via their email or other platforms?
yeah, I mean, everything is guided towards centralizing communications for you all, so you're not having creators reaching out to you across like emails and whatnot. So the reason we built it this way is for the fact that you just mentioned, is a lot of creators will be like, I just want to respond to you over text, or I want to just respond to you over email. So no matter where they respond, it's actually just pulling that message and copy into this channel. So it's just super streamlined and easy for the creator to respond where they want to respond, which makes it a little less of a friction point for them when, you know, having to log into an app and, review your messages. We're just proactively kind of getting them to communicate where they are most accustomed and where they want to communicate.
Got it.
And then within here, you'll be able to, as you enter negotiations, see where people are in the negotiation phase. Of course, you can export data on as needed basis. You have a running list of people who you've declined. What I'll say is our system is actively using every action you take to help refine the sourcing and recruiting. So like if you select this person, it's going to add that individual to kind of this lookalike profile finder in our backend to say, let's go find more people like this, so that we're just kind of presenting you with people that, as you fine tune and hone in on who you want your targets to be, it's kind of just helpful frame of reference for our system to optimize the sourcing and recruitment. Let's see, kind of moving along. So once you select an influencer, then we're entering kind of the activation and management phase of the process. So you'll be able to see where every influencer is along the process of participation. When you've, move forward with them, again, you'll have a digital contract version of the contract here. All notes carry over, all chat carries over into, this part of the process. Here's where if you're shipping them product, we actually have a really cool shipping feature where you just add the tracking code and it will communicate with the creator, letting them know where it hooks up to every major mail carrier. So we'll let the creator know where the product is in transit, let them know when it's delivered, all that good stuff. If it's not applicable, you know, whatever's not applicable to your specific campaign will be just dynamically showcasing what is in this section. Here in this case, they wanted to have pre-approval capability. So influencers will actually upload their content here. This is where you can request it before they ultimately go live with it, approve it, and then once it's ultimately approved, the influencers will begin completing everything that's required of them. Now,
Austin, quick question on the gifting feature where it's just sending promo items without actually having them mandatorily have to put a post out.
yep,
Since there's not really a creator fee on that, does that mean that the pricing that you sent over in regards to the 5% creator processing fee would not be applicable to those? Okay.
that's exactly right.
Okay.
We actually, it's a good point. We, as you're working out and putting in new models, like we have various tiers that include and don't include gifting for that reason. So if you are just purely gifting creators product, that's long and the short, that's included in what I provided. So that 5% fee just wouldn't be applicable to gifting only campaigns.
Got it. Makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, good question.
And in regards to the briefing stage, I know in the very beginning when we were writing out the brief, you could put in specific handles of creators that you're interested in.
Yep.
Are you able to just look up these creators within the platform before the briefing stage without making this brief?
So it's funny you asked that because we had in market uh what we called like a find influencers tab that had like 200,000 creators we worked with in the past where you can kind of crawl through, look at them and invite them to programs. And what's interesting is it actually caused more annoyance than good because people were like spending all this time looking at these creators and inviting them to be a part of the program, but your system is just doing it for me. And it's more frustrating me spending like hours trying to reach out to these creators as opposed to just like letting the people come in. So the long answer and the long and short is like we do have that capability. We actually stopped exposing it because it was becoming more of an annoyance and hindrance. Um, but if that's like a hard requirement request of yours, I can look at what we can do to kind of enable that feature where there'll be essentially right in this section a find influencers tab where you can kind of like filter down on our database internally. But yeah, it's funny you asked that because we just I mean, the power of this product is kind of the engine of doing the sourcing and recruitment, but that would be helpful to your point in this point where you're like, I don't really know who I want to put in here yet. Do you have somewhere for me to go look to find who I should put in here? So that's helpful feedback for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, I think other than that, it's just sometimes we've found that our clients have people that they follow or they've heard of that they're interested in, but they don't
Yeah,
actually know their demographics that well. So they want to look up their information,
yeah,
and make sure that it does fit who they think they are.
yeah. Well, what I'll say, and this is what I don't know why I didn't emphasize this, is our system is actually doing that. At this
Mhm.
point, when you're selecting creators, you can click into what we have, which are audience insight reports, which give you and their team a deep data-driven breakdown of their audience, like average likes, engagement rates, popular hashtags, what the audience credibility is, um, like gender split across age groups, notable people following them, where their audience is located. So this is kind of where, at this point of the process, is when you would really want to know, well, what is the makeup of this audience to make sure I'm working with the right creators. So we do have that, which is here. You just click on the insights report, and with your what I offered to you, we're just kind of giving you unlimited audience insight reports. So for every influencer, you'll just be able to click this button. It'll take you to a breakdown of their demographic.
Awesome. So you'll only be able to see the insights report of the influencers that apply to your brief, though, right?
That's right. For right now, that's the way it works.
Got it.
Um, So, as influencers are applying, and yeah, you can export this data as well. And another helpful thing is being able to send bulk messages, which I'll show you here. You can kind of like just click whoever you want, send a bulk message. And if you have you're hosting an event and you're like, hey, all these influencers I want to invite to come to this event, you can do so directly in here. But as creators are posting, they're getting through this section, then you'll be able to see kind of their performance, the funnel of how many creators have viewed the opportunity, submissions, number of people selected, number of creators completed, why people might be saying they're not interested in participating. Here's where you can actually invite influencers or creators if you client works with them or you've worked with creators and you're like, really like to have you part of the process, or you want to have a button on your website, copy the application link, share it to anybody. It'll take them to, review the opportunity, apply, and all that good stuff. But as content's going live, we're tracking kind of high level reach, posts, stories, views, comments, likes, all of that good stuff. And then, of course, more granularly, the content itself. You can export the data on an as needed basis, search by influencer, by content type, date range, can click into the actual post itself. share it, communicate, actually, collaborate with them a little bit more. And yeah, that's kind of the reporting content, that side of it. And then of course you can see global performance and metrics across campaigns in a more global view across various campaigns that you want to see kind of performance, and then of course content as well.
If we put paid money behind these influencer contents, like utilizing the whitelisting rights, would the performance be pulled into this at all?
No, we don't have. Someone actually just asked that because Instagram, TikTok, and Google make it very difficult to be able to boost and put paid behind creative directly in third-party applications. So you would, facilitate that through the platform, but then, the tracking and reporting of those particular paid efforts would actually just be, as you're logging in, as you typically would be putting paid behind anything.
Got
But
it.
yeah,
Does your dashboard have any type of API that we can link back to our dashboard to pull in the data?
we do have an export of all content that we don't have an exposed API of the platform, but we do have, you can export all of this data very easily and then create whatever dashboards you want off of those exports
Got it.
and data uploads. But
Very cool.
um
I
yeah,
also
we
see
don't.
a start date and end date here, so we can export the data per the date that we want it, right? Okay,
Yep,
perfect.
exactly. Yep. Um, and you can also filter on certain things like top performing creators, top performing engagement, most recent posts, all of that good stuff. And it's actually really helpful having a view of it like this because you'll see content go live and you'll see something happen in your system, whatever you're tracking, being like, whoa, there's a lot of app downloads or a lot of subscribers that happened on February 22nd. It's easy for you to distill that and be like, oh, there was a peak at this point. This influencer posted at this point. So it becomes very easy to kind of create cross-channel knowledge of like what's helping what almost. Um, so yeah, that's a really good call out. And then our system handles all payments to creators. So as influencers complete everything that's required of them, we will not pay a creator until they've completed everything. Our system communicates, handles all of that. You'll see when payment is being processed, once the influencer's completed everything, you'll have, I believe it's a 7-day window to refute whether they've completed it or not to your standards. And if it makes it beyond that 7-day period, our system will automatically pull from this escrow payment management, um, uh, I guess, system within partnrUP where you add a balance. You can withdraw from your balance, of course, but basically, as you're selecting influencers, it's pulling against that so that we are essentially able to facilitate payouts to creators in a timely, ensure that there's kind of quality control on both sides and all of that good stuff. So super streamlined. And what's great is we work a lot with agencies that want to have various different accounts, brands that they're working with that have different payment processors on file to be paying creators. So you can essentially attach different ACH and payment and credit card information to a specific brand so that our system is kind of becoming the middleman of facilitating those types of transactions to creators.